Hello, everyone, and welcome to this viewer's advisory on coming of age films. My name is Darlene, and I work at the Beltsville branch.
My name's Elizabeth, and I work at the Glenarden branch. Hi, everyone.
My name is Rachel, and I work at the Bowie branch.
And my name is Joy, and I also work at the Bowie branch.
All right, so today our topic is coming of age films, and I think that means something different to everyone. So I wanted to open up the discussion with how do you define a coming of age film?
I would say that the main character usually has some growth. That's how I would, and they're usually a teenaged character. That's mostly how I would define like most coming of age films and like how they fit into that genre. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think a coming of age film is that, but also anytime you watch a film and you feel like this character's story kind of aligns with your life and you can like relate to it and it resonates with you somehow. So I think that could also make a coming of age film.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, for this one, I like literally looked up what's coming of age film. Like this is what came up because I was curious because for me, I think the first thought to my mind is any film that there's a loss of innocence, like there's a character who's starting off as an adolescent or a kid, and then something happens, not necessarily that they become an adult, which I think can be a coming of age story, but there's just a loss of this feeling like you're still a child, or some of the things that, is kind of hidden to you as a kid. So that's what my definition of it is.
Yeah, I think when I was looking up coming of age films, sometimes I would feel like it was very vaguely a coming of age film, or I felt like a lot of them were conflating it like, oh, it has teens, so it must be a coming of age film. But I think I am pretty open, I think, about my definition as well. Like, as long as it's kind of a teenager kind of going through something, although there's something to be said for coming of age, like maybe someone in their 20s kind of finally going into their 30s and what that means. So I don't know. I guess I'm pretty open about it as well. But I think when I first thought about it and I like talked to others, they were like, I feel like most of the ones on these lists are just because they feature teens. But I'm like, I mean, once it focuses on teens and the things that they go through and gives it the weight that usually isn't given to like teen issues, then you start to kind of get into that coming of age territory.
Did you ever watch Normal People, the TV show?
No, I heard really good things about it, but
so yeah, that's one that I would consider a coming of age, but it follows them into college and past that. But like that's it, what you were saying, kind of like you're just blossoming into a more of an adult or whatever. So I definitely agree with that too.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good point in terms of a lot of coming of age films also being rom-coms. I don't know that Normal People is a rom-com, but I mean, I do think that romance or like having a love interest, or I guess that's film speak, but like, I guess like thinking about relationships, it is kind of a new or like rite of passage for a lot of teens to kind of explore themselves and their feelings, their emotions, and stuff like that. Sorry, Joy, I think I was cutting you off from a point.
Oh, just like how you said coming of age, mostly like the first thing people think of is teens, but then I was like, oh wait, like what are coming of age films where it's like a person in their mid to late 30s or early 40s? And then I was like, oh, like Wild or Eat, Pray, Love, which I never saw, but yeah, kind of those things were like something like they're full-fledged adults, but then like something traumatic happens and then they have to kind of like start over or like discover a different part of themselves. So yeah.
Would you say a loss of innocence, as Elizabeth said?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because they go into their lives thinking like, I'm gonna have this like perfect marriage or this perfect thing, and then something shatters it and they're like, oh, what now? And then they go through like growing up again.
almost like a second coming.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
All right. So I guess that's kind of where we're coming from when we recommend anything from here on out. But I guess the next question I wanted to ask you guys is, what was the first coming of age film you remember seeing?
Go. You go, Elizabeth. I'm always going first.
So this is the film that popped into my head, and I don't know if anyone has seen this. I don't even know if people really have access to it anymore. It might be on Netflix, but it's called Indian in the Cupboard.
Oh yeah, I read the
Netflix.
So
Yeah.
I don't like, every time I mention that movie, it's like, what?
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Good one.
So that was the first movie as a kid where I think I recognized something. There was a specific change in the character from the beginning, kind of like this shy kid, I think like most kids maybe, and then this fancy type, he gets this item that causes things to come to life, and I think that movie is a surprising one to me, because the way you think it's just going to be like this fun fantasy, like, oh, I can make my toys become alive, and it becomes like this really deep, like introspective thing, and it takes the character on a journey in the end, and you can kind of tell he gains a lot of maybe bravery and understanding, and I guess there is this sense of innocence or a bit of adulthood that you can see that character reach in the end. So and that's the first movie as a kid. I remember when I was really young and I was like crying, like, and yeah, so that's the one that comes to mind, in the Cupboard, kids movie. And it's like, even though that character doesn't become an adult, he still is a kid, but you definitely can feel that there's a different character at the end of the movie.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Not one I don't think that I would just like think of offhand as a coming of age one, but you're right. That's like definitely.
I was trying to think of the first one I like saw, like,
Yeah.
and that's the one I recognized, like, yeah, something is different about this movie.
Yeah. Mine was Grease. Mine was Grease for sure. And it was also my first CD. So that was like huge for me. But yeah, I loved it. And I watched it like a million times. And I was always listening to the CD soundtrack of the movie. Just trying to be cool like Sandy at the end.
I was just gonna say end of the movie end. Sandy, right?
Yeah, not nerdy Sandy.
Sandra D.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this question, and I don't know, I think if I'm thinking of the very first one, it would probably be like Disney princesses, because I think when I was younger, and I didn't recognize them as such, because when I was younger, everyone just seemed like an adult to me. So I just assumed they were adults, but they're not. They're actually teenagers going through these things. I don't know what it says, that a lot of those coming of age is like coming into adulthood and then getting married like right then and there. But if you think about it in coming of age in like the simplest of terms, kind of like that loss of innocence, or like kind of going through certain trials and tribulations as a teen, then those would probably be the first ones I saw. Probably like The Little Mermaid or Mulan.
Well, and you could say too, that's a way that coming of age films have kind of changed. Like people aren't getting married right away now in coming of age films. It's more like talking about like hard topics. And we're going to discuss that later, but that was a good point that you brought up, that it's like all the Disney characters got married and that's how they came of age.
Yeah, and they're also based on like fairy tales. So back then.
Right.
I guess that was acceptable, and they were like, well, it's fine, we don't condone that now, but back then they did get married.
Yeah, that kind of prefaced the first coming of age that I remember, which is The Lion King.
Oh.
Yes.
because I don't know, I really love animals, and so The Lion King resonated with me, because it's like Simba, his dad dies, and then he like, he grows up and has to think about taking over the kingdom, but he doesn't want to, and Rafiki like whacks him over the head, that stuff. So
That's a good one too.
yeah, I think that I still like can't watch. I haven't seen the like live action one because I think it's too like real. Like I can't watch animal stuff.
Elizabeth is shaking her head like,
big
no, you don't want
slushy.
to.
Yeah,
Oh, I
I
don't
feel like
want
you
to.
have feelings about it.
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater. I mean, I wanted to see it because, fiance. Not a
Right.
lover. But I really, for all of the, this is like a topic off topic, but just for all of the Disney films, please, 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 like, don't let that be your kids' first introduction. Like, don't let the live action
Right.
first introduction to them, because there's something that animation can do that live action or like simulating real life just you can't
Yeah.
pick up on. And Lion King is an example of that.
Yeah. So
I mean, I think
think,
that's why I enjoyed them growing up, because I think it does open up your world to like, opens up like your imagination to different possibilities. So do you have a film, like a coming of age film, that resonated with you the most, or a character in a coming of age film that you related to in some way?
I'll go first again.
Okay.
It's all about me. So definitely when I was in high school, I loved The Perks of Being a Wallflower, so much so that I got a tattoo from the book and eventually the movie. But more recently, Lady Bird, the main character, the girl in Lady Bird, the mother-daughter relationship was so similar to my mother-daughter relationship when I was in high school. Like, I was like, did you like video me when I was younger? Like, this is like almost word for word. Like, whoa. And it was just so crazy to see like a similar coming of age as to what I had. But it was really like neat. And so Lady Bird's like one of my favorites just because I relate to it so much.
Was there another name you went by?
Yeah.
No.
Like Lady Bird.
Oh, okay.
No, I
feel
didn't.
like you're just not
I didn't
telling
do that.
us. Well,
was good.
piggybacking off of Lady Bird, I don't think I related to this character as much, but we had some similarities in how we grew up. And I'm thinking of Anna from Real Women Have Curves. So just the idea of being like in a Latino culture, and having very like strict parents who have specific ideas for what they want you to do with your future in order to like, and having those ideas kind of then be tied to the struggles that they had to face, and feeling like, oh, those struggles like would it be all worth it if you did these things, and then you feeling like you have to live up to those things. And I say piggybacking off of Lady Bird because I saw a lot of discussion online when Lady Bird came out that they're really similar. And I think a lot of the discussion around it was that we didn't give Real Women Have Curves the same like moment that Lady Bird had. But I think that essentially they are very different, even though they do talk on like a strained relationship between a mother and daughter. I still think at the end, the lessons that the characters are meant to learn were kind of different. Like from Real Women Have Curves, I feel like it's mostly about her independence. Like that's why I think at the end that's what you see. Like you see her finally being her own person. Whereas I think Lady Bird kind of had to grapple with the fact that things aren't really black and white. And I don't know, I feel like thematically they had similar themes, but that's something that made them different. And I also feel like culturally and like socioeconomic status also changed up like how like the format of the movie and like how they navigated the world. So I can see it in some sense, but
Can you just in the article says that, oh, these are both the same movie, but one movie got more praise than the other one. That's like the gist of what the article saying.
Yeah. So, and I also think that I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I want to say that either the writer or director of Real Women Have Curves kind of alluded to that as well. I mean, I think it's a larger discussion. I don't know if that's where you were kind of going with it, but like I think that we just kind of give space to those kind of like narratives a bit more now than we did back then. I think it's more of a timing thing, but also Greta Gerwig is partner with like Noah, I forgot his last name, but he's a director as well. So, and she's an actress. And so I feel like she just knows how to navigate this world a bit better and was able to get it to like the right film festivals and get it the Oscar buzz and like, you know, for Academy winner or Academy members to actually see it. So that also plays a role in how a film is kind of treated by the public. So I don't know that it's a fair comparison, but I think they were trying to say like thematically they dealt with the same thing, but we didn't get that same.
I can see that, but then I feel like then you should add like 10 other movies to the list of what, because I mean, Lady Bird isn't unique. I don't think any of them are. I've seen there's many movies that we're having a whole conversation about movies.
Yeah.
Like, but I guess I would push back a little bit, and I guess, but you kind of said it, like there's a whole cog of like being a part of like the machine, and then if you compare just those two movies, is it Saoirse Ronan? She was already very established by the time she did Lady Bird, whereas America Ferrera, like that was like one of her first films that put her on the map. So I think it's a little different, but I guess I could see it.
Like maybe the broad strokes are kind of the same, but
I mean, it's pretty similar. Like,
I don't know. After I hear Darlene saying like her points, like I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it's pretty. I can see someone making that argument, but I wouldn't go as far as saying like, oh, we didn't give it its moment, because it just, I feel like the context was a bit different.
Yeah, I agree. The timing.
Yeah, the timing, the context, like, and some of the themes are different.
Yeah, because Real Women Had Curves had the whole like body positivity involved in it, and also, but I think what they're saying is that it's like a strained mother-daughter relationship, and then the like resolution and conflict deals with college, and it deals with like a mother not really understanding her daughter. So I think they meant in that sense, and how assertive. And I don't necessarily think that either character is meant to be super likable. Like they're just meant to be, you know, the teenager that kind of is. I don't want to like. I mean, like at that age, it's like it's harder to see like your place in the world. Like you just want to establish yourself, and I think that as characters, you know, some might say that they can be a little like selfish or like self-centered, but it's like they're just trying to like live their life and like navigate that and gain their independence from like their family unit.
Mm-hmm.
Joy, did you have a film that you wanted to add to this question?
Yeah, well, kind of. So a coming of age film hasn't really resonated with me until now, pretty much, because growing up there were not like any coming of age films with Asian American women as the lead. At least I didn't see them. And so the film that I would say is To All the Boys, that series, and kind of like I'm like going back and forth because all the thoughts are going about how, you know, the Asian character is always like the sidekick or like the nerd or like just kind of like not as, or is like uplifting the white main character. But yeah, To All the Boys, because it's like the first film with an Asian American, well, coming of age one that I've seen where like a teen is going through unrequited love kind of. And it made me like think back to like all those crushes, and I was like, oh my god, if that ever happened to me as a teen, I would be like mortified. But I think just growing up I appreciated a lot of the coming of age films. I just didn't really relate to them because it wasn't my story. Yeah, so To All the Boys, I liked all of them. I think they have like a And that's like another thing about coming of age films, like the vibes that they give off. I don't know if that's too like woo woo or snowflakey, but like they have a certain energy about that.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, to all the boys for sure.
Yeah. So, oh, sorry. Were you gonna?
I was gonna I think there's two that came to mind, but to piggyback off of what Joy said, I think um, I, I guess I wouldn't really say that I resonated much with coming of age films, because sometimes I feel like coming of age films are supposed to be like nostalgia for adults sometimes. Like it's like for an adult to watch and like, oh, that was the time in my life. And I mentioned that because a movie that's coming to mind is a film called Crooklyn, and it's a movie by Spike Lee. And I saw it as a kid, and I don't want to say that I didn't like it. I just couldn't really like sit and watch it because I think I didn't understand it. But then as an adult, or when I became a little older and watched it, it really, really resonated with me, because when you're a kid, I don't know, some kids are very like smart and intellectual and they like see patterns in movies and stuff. But I was not until much later. And um, when you become older, there's just like things you notice about films. And one of the things that you sometimes notice about films is like probably very similar to what Joy was saying. Like you notice the tropes, and Crooklyn is just this movie about this family, and um, the and it's about mainly the one little girl in this family, and it's this rambunctious family living in Brooklyn, and throughout the story you realize that the family is ultimately dealing with um, the repercussions of the mother and the family getting cancer. And it's just like this quiet movie. And I, as a kid, I just was like, mm-mm. But as an adult, I was like, wow, like they're just, existing and experiencing this. And you're just seeing how it unfolds for this family. It's not like this. I don't know. I don't know if I'm really explaining it well, but it's just like this story. And sometimes I feel like white people get that all the time. Like they get like just these stories, and then for characters of color, it has to be so traumatic. Like it has to be like so much. And this movie is just like what happens with the family, the end result, and you kind of are left with, oh, I wonder what happens with them in the future. And so that's a really impactful movie to me, and a coming of age story that's not on any of the lists I looked at, but would suggest, because it's very touching how the family deals with what happens.
Elizabeth,
And
your response. Oh, I was going to say your response made me think of two things. So one, and I think you're right that a lot of coming of age films work better like to an adult audience because they get to reminisce about things. Because it reminded me of this movie, or not movie, a show that Joy and Rachel like suggested. And I only watched the first episode, but it was Pen 15. I'm not going to say what that actually is supposed to spell out. But it's like, I didn't really go into it knowing the premise, but it's like two adult actors acting out like their middle school years. And I feel like that's like a good representation of the fact that a lot of coming of age films are just people reliving those experiences and trying to make sense of them. Because even Greta Gerwig, I would assume that, or I feel like I remember it said that Lady Bird was kind of like autobiographical, or like it comes from her experiences. So I think that is like a really good way to think about coming of age films. And secondly, in terms of like not usually seeing yourself reflected in these like narratives, it kind of reminded me of something like Barry Jenkins had said about Moonlight and why he wanted to create it, especially the way that he did. So looks wise, it has a very like art house feel. And he was like saying, you know, you rarely see Black people in that genre or in that type of like cinematography. And so he just wanted to like create space, which I think is like a really beautiful thing. There are some genres that seem, I mean, I think you could say that of all genres, that like they can seem very like dominated by like white stories. So it's nice when you can see just like quiet reflections of like people of color and their life and their lived experiences. And I feel like we've kind of answered this next question, but do you guys still watch coming of age films? And I guess to add to that, like what makes a good coming of age film in your opinion?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Rachel.
Yeah.
I saw your mouth. I was like getting ready. Me. I still watch them. I think, well, not as often because my heart is in horror and thriller. So like those are the movies I seek out. But
Same.
whenever I like want to feel good or like reminisce about high school and like middle school, not so much middle school, but high school, I like go back to them. Or like I think I've seen To All the Boys like 5 times because I'm like, I want more. I want to make up for all the years that I like didn't see someone who looked like me as the main character. And I think what makes a good coming of age film, I mean, I think diversity, and I hate the word diversity, but diversity, and that's like diversity in people, diversity in experiences, identities, etc. Because they touch on such like a vulnerable part of people's lives of like coming into their own and figuring out who they are. And I think that, you know, touching on all different experiences, as many as possible, is like a good way to reach many more audiences, or even you know, have an adult audience being like, oh, like I wish I had that experience like that character did, or that's what I went through. So I think what did I write? I wrote representation, realism, relatability, and authenticity, which are like all the same things. And also like good acting. And I think we'll touch on this later, but like, you know, I think having characters where the actors are what they're representing or what they're acting as, I think is another aspect, especially with like films covering neurodiversity and like like autism, things like that, how it's important where the so anyway, we can get into that later, but that's my brain moves faster than my mouth.
So I think what makes a good coming of age film for me is like seeing myself in the film and feeling seen or understood without me having to have said any of my experiences, you know, but like the film just gets it. And yes, I consume a lot of media and I do love horror and thrillers the most, but yeah, I watch all coming of age films and all sorts of stuff. So my one recent favorite one was The Florida Project. I love that. And I mentioned that in every viewer's advisory, and Elizabeth is like over it. And she doesn't even think it's that good, but I loved it.
I said none of these things.
Your face said it all.
Yeah.
What is that one? I haven't heard of that one. What's that?
So
premise?
It's about these little children who live in a motel, and it just follows their story in Florida in the summer. And they kind of grow up a little bit. Like they're definitely children. They kind of grow up a bit by the end. And it's just like heartbreaking, and I don't know. I loved it.
I was like watching Elizabeth's face the whole time.
I know, I'm done now. I just had to do my Florida Project plug for this year's advisory.
Yeah, it's more so the plug, not like the movies, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess I can go. I probably echo a lot of what you guys are saying, and then maybe add some type of like a feeling of nostalgia or emotional feeling. Like I can't remember now who said it. Maybe Joy said it. Of there's an energy to the film, and I think if it perfectly captures that, for me, the coming of age movie that I always revisit is Little Women, the Winona Ryder version. That just movie, to me, that's just like a quintessential coming of age movie in just so many different realms. There's a lot of Lady Bird, like I think tropes in there. Like you could tell that. I'm not surprised Greta Gerwig ended up making a version of Little Women, because you see a lot of that in her films. I feel like the character of Jo, and then the characters literally become adults in the movie. So yeah, that's one that I revisit. I like. I don't know why, because it's not diverse at all. But but I do like that one. I revisit it a lot.
Yeah, I am with you in terms of like there's not much diversity to it. So I think that sometimes I'm a little put off from like seeking them out. Like it took me a while to watch Lady Bird, because I was like, oh, what is there for me to like really relate to this character? I mean, it's still fun though. Like I still think that even if it's not your experiences, it's still someone's experiences, and it's always like good to find a connection in that way. But yeah, the way that she talked back to her mom, I was like, no, I would not
That
be
is
here
the
today.
one there. I think that's the part where I'm just like, yeah, that honestly seems like a fantasy to me.
Yeah. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine
But
it.
it is a fun movie. I do like it, but that whole scene, and I'm sorry if this is spoiling, but the whole scene in the car,
Oh
like
my
that would have
God.
gone so different in my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just watch it. It's like right there in the opening scene. So if anyone's curious, you
And
won't
there's
have
a
to
little bit
wait
in the
long.
trailer, so.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Spoiler.
But yeah, I don't know that I seek them out. But I have seen some really good ones that I really enjoyed. Another one that I've seen, I think in the past few years, is The Way, Way Back. And I really enjoyed it. I'm bringing it up because I feel like most of the time I seek out like stories that kind of center, if they're coming of age, but mostly all films, if they center women or like girls coming of age. And that was, I think, one that I remember distinctly. Like it follows like a boy coming of age, and like he spends a summer in this like town, and he gets a job at like an amusement park, and it really touches on the idea of like who your mentors can be, and sometimes how it's not always going to be your parents, and sometimes you can find that person that you relate to and that you kind of want to model or like be more like, and that, you know, not be part of your family unit. So I really enjoyed it, and then it came out around the same time as Boyhood, which I did not like, because I felt it was a little gimmicky. Like, yeah, I mean, I still think I lean toward female-centered movies and coming of age films, but I do think that there's like a wider sense of what that means as well. And I think I've also like revisited some from like the 90s and early 2000s that I really enjoyed. They don't always hold up so well. But I think it's okay as long as you're kind of looking at it from a critical lens and know like why it's wrong. But you know, as a child, you weren't really thinking about some of those themes. I don't know. I think it's fun to still go back and look at. Like I actually rewatched 10 Things I Hate About You.
What did you find wrong with that? Did it all hold up?
I mean, no, I think that one held up a little bit better, but I mean, it was just this idea that like at the end, she had to be with someone, right? Like she was rightfully angry. I don't know how to like synthesize the plot of 10 Things I Hate About You, but basically like a guy is like paid to take out this girl or this teen, this older sister. Her name is Kat, and so but like he ends up like falling in love with her just based on like her personality, and like he really gets to know her, and then at the end she finds out what happened, and she's like rightfully angry, and there's like a really touching scene at the end where she kind of displays those kind of mixed emotions, but then at the end it kind of ties everything very neatly, because narratively, like that's kind of how these teen movies were before. Like there's some sort of conflict, and at the end there's like this really nice pretty resolution, and it's usually one like a romantic one, like in the end they end up together, rather than like just the messy ways that like relationships can exist, and that sometimes people just are better apart, or all of these more complicated themes. I think sometimes they're like simplified in coming of age films, especially like earlier ones.
I'm sorry if this is off topic, but it's interesting just to see that 10 Things I Hate About You is on the coming of age story. It's like on every list that I saw. And I don't associate that movie with coming of age. I really like because it was a part of that era of when they were making Shakespeare into like modern day. And so like 10 Things I Hated About You is Taming of the Shrew. So if you're going based on that, it's going to kind of tie up at the end because
that's true. Yeah.
Comedy. But I guess it is a coming of age, but I never associated it. But I see it everywhere.
Yeah, I think my friend, because I was asking her about this as well, she was like very adamant that she didn't think it was. She was like, oh, like I think it's just any movie that features teens is considered a coming of age. And I'm like, well, I mean, like, or she's like, I would say it's like strictly a rom-com, but I don't know. I guess that's when I started to think more of it. And I'm like, well, romantic relationships are part of growing up, and that in itself could be like what they're coming to terms with, or like coming of age in terms of like knowing who they are in a relationship. So yeah, but you're not alone in like being kind of like surprised whether that would actually be considered a coming of age film or not. But yeah, do you guys have a specific genre that you guys kind of like gravitate toward? Because I know for me, it's usually comedies or rom-coms.
Yep, same. I think the dramas can get heavy.
I like the dramas.
Where I need to like pay attention, and I'm like, oh, okay, and like not get distracted.
I like the drama ones. Sorry, Elizabeth, go ahead.
I don't have a genre I gravitate towards. I have a genre that I stay away from, and it's usually gory horror. I don't like a really, really gory body horror. It's just like, I'm good. Thanks.
That's a no.
Well, Joy and Rachel is like our resident like horror, thriller type fans. Yeah, is there one for coming of age films?
No. It Follows is what I'm thinking of.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
A little, like.
Well, what would you say, like The Shining plus Dr. Sleep, kind of? Because like Dr. Sleep is when he grows up and like revisits the hotel.
I don't remember. I've seen those in a bajillion years. Sorry.
Anyway.
I feel like Scream is one.
Oh yeah, Scream is one. Yeah.
So yes.
I did not finish Hereditary, but
Hereditary.
Hereditary and Midsummer too, I would say.
Yeah.
Because she goes through the Oh,
so there's
I have
a
to
nice
watch
little
them again.
subgenre to kind of
Thank you,
your
Elizabeth.
feet into.
I feel like a lot of the horror films, especially of the 80s, like the Jason, the Halloween, there's always like some female character
element. Oh yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Like teenagers, like being punished for like having emotions and.
But that's why I think I like Scream though.
Scream scared me too much, I will say.
Really?
Yeah.
That's I couldn't. I was like, oh yeah, this is like good horror. horror. Like I could.
Can
No,
handle
I couldn't go in the garage alone, like, because that one scene, like, I still get like, ooh.
Yeah, but that's a good,
Don't watch
I think that's a good
scary movies
example.
where you actually see Scream and then it's like all funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
But
saw it when I was younger, so.
yeah, but I feel like I seek horror out because it's horror, not because it's a coming of age film.
Yeah.
There just happen to be coming of age elements where I'm just like, show me all the special effects and like even like Oculus is kind of a coming of age because like coming to terms with the mysterious okay, anyway.
I don't know
With
that one.
Oh, it's with the haunted mirror. And it like when you look at it, it like drives people insane. I really like Elizabeth is shaking her head. Nope.
So you said that's an example of a coming of age film?
I would say like if we're talking about horror, then yeah, I think it would because like as children, their parents were it looked like a murder suicide, but like it's the mirror, and then they revisit the house later in their adulthood and like have the mirror, and it's like confronting the mirror. But in the end, everybody loses. Sorry, spoiler. Everybody loses. So, so there's that like not very clean, tied up ending for you, Darlene.
Was that from an earlier period?
No, it was in the I don't know 2010s.
Gotcha.
I think I don't remember, but I enjoyed that. What about like animated coming of age? I know someone has feelings about Studio Ghibli. They
Let's
don't
all
like
look
Spirited
at that
Away.
corner of the screen.
I know. I was like, I'll be quiet for this one.
Because that's what I thought of first. Because I love Spirited Away and I watch it like 100 times.
Spirited Away about again?
It's the one where she, the main character, she's moving with her family and they come across this like abandoned town, but when she enters the town she enters this fantasy world that she's kind of like trapped in, and she has to like navigate her way through, and she meets a friend who like also turns into a dragon. I'm not very good at describing it because it's much like deeper and like better than that, but it's just it's about her kind of like remembering who she is, because when she's in this fantasy world, she like doesn't really remember her first name or something, or he doesn't remember his name either, and so it's kind of like them finding themselves. And yeah, there's like a whole bunch of other stuff like you've probably seen like on the internet a lot of like no face, so like all black with the white like mask thing, not Scream, but I don't know if I'm describing it very well, Darlene.
No, I think you got it right. I mean, it's like you don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Like you just did with Oculus.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil Spirited Away because that's close to my heart.
Yeah, I feel like you captured the essence without really giving much of the plot, or like too much of the plot.
Yeah, and I guess like the loss of innocence is kind of like I don't know, adjusting to a new place and navigating an unknown place, and I don't know what else. I just really like it. And
That's not the one when the mom is sick, right?
no,
Which one is that?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Is that my neighbor Totoro?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't like that one either, but coming of age.
I didn't see that one.
Style, like, cause are they all by the same director?
Same like studio or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Never seen Spirited Away, but I remember they might not even relate. But I remember really liking Kiki's Delivery.
Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the
That's
day.
from that studio. I
I actually watched that and didn't mind it.
Oh, okay. So maybe you're not a
Whoa.
complete Studio Ghibli hater.
Is Ghibli? I guess I just assumed Miyazaki.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Um,
I thought that, but I didn't want to butcher the name. I was like, I know it's something long. I just don't want to ruin it. Yeah, Kiki's Delivery Service made me want to ride a broomstick.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
those are all kind of coming of age stories, though, it sounds like. That's why I was asking the plot, because I'm like, I wonder if it's similar to Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yeah, I think that's a central theme that he likes to explore. Like, usually it'll be through a child's eye,
Mhm.
and like kind of how they see their place in the world. And sometimes they'll have like environmentalism themes as well, because that's something that I think he cares about a lot. But yeah, I mean, did you have any particular thoughts about Kiki's Delivery Service? I feel like that's actually a really good example of a coming of age
No,
amongst animated films.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
Oh,
I will
okay.
tell
Yeah,
you
me
that.
neither. It's been a while.
I watched it a lot when I was a kid, and I really liked it. And I think that has a similar vibe to Indian in the Cupboard. It's like this, you don't become adults at the end per se, but you definitely feel like the characters go through this type of adulthood by the end of the movie. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's a nice or like I think the theme of like magic or like coming into like adulthood or like adolescence around the time that they get magic is also a common theme. Like I guess the first one that came to mind was obviously Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah, that is a coming of age film.
Ooh.
Oh, I didn't even think of Harry Potter. Duh, it's a total
I
coming of
didn't
age
either.
film.
So do you guys feel like coming of age films have changed over the years?
Mhm.
And I mean that's a pretty open question and like how you think that they have or maybe they haven't.
Yeah, I think they definitely have. I think they've gotten better about diversity, but I think there still needs to be a lot of work done in that realm. To prepare for this, I wanted to watch like two kind of more recent coming of age films, and I watched the half of it, which it was cute. Like I thought it was okay, because it covers kind of like someone coming into their sexuality and like, but then I was like, ooh, like they made the Chinese character this like quirky, introverted, like meek character, which like is kind of a trope. And I was like, meh, but like, okay, like she was uplifting and helping the white character Paul, who was like kind of an idiot, and I was really frustrated. I was like, has he even talked to a person? But where am I going with this? But yeah, I just thought it was cute. And that's kind of how I might describe the more recent ones. I also watched Love, Simon because I wanted to see how they like both covered LGBTQ plus topics. I think Love, Simon was also cute, but definitely needs work. I don't think it's perfect. But yeah.
Elizabeth and I just watched The Prom, and we were like pleasantly surprised and like pleased with that movie.
It was sweet.
What's
The
that?
Prom?
It was sweet.
Yeah, it was sweet. The Prom.
What is that one about?
Yeah.
It's a coming of age movie with a character who the main character is. They're both working on like coming out to their friends and family for the prom. And Elizabeth, you're better at explaining things. Like, can you give the synopsis?
Mainly you kind of follow this one character, and she's basically it's come out that she's come out to everyone, and her and her partner were supposed to come out together, and they were going to go to the prom together, but that ends up not happening. And this is a conservative town. They don't want people of the same sex apparently going to prom together, and so everyone basically conspires against her to not let the prom. So they basically were going to cancel the prom because this girl has come out, and hijinks ensue because people try to come to town and help this girl because she's come out, and they want her to have a prom. So in the end, a prom happens, but not in the way you suspect.
Okay, I was like, spoilers,
Oh,
but then I was like, oh,
intriguing.
See, you're good at synopsis.
yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
I'm
now
like,
I
oh,
want
there
to
were
watch it.
people.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I thought it was very sweet. Because the title you would think it's going to be real basic, and it's nice. It's based off of a musical, so
Oh,
Where?
do you know what musical?
I think it's called Wrong.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Or there, or am I wrong? I could be wrong about that, but sorry if I am.
Sorry, viewers. Oh, that sounds really cute.
I wanted to make sure to mention that one. I liked it. I thought it was really sweet.
And it's on
Recently came out, like the last 6 months or something.
I feel like, I mean, I'm not that old, but I'm like old enough to kind of see how with some of the newer, like the newer ones, I'm like not really relating to a ton of them. I don't know. Well, like, I mean, the one, like, the ones I mentioned, but I feel like watching the half of it and watching Love, Simon, I was kind of like, this is cute, but like they're not really resonating with me. I'm not feeling the nostalgic, like, oh, I remember when I was helping my white friend write love letter. I don't know. I guess because like the actors and the actresses are just like, they're getting younger and younger, and they're like in their early 20s, and I'm approaching my late 20s, so I'm just like, I don't know if we're like on the same page.
So I was gonna say something similar, because I actually feel like I looked up coming of age stories, and so then after that I looked up, okay, let's find some Black people in some of these. So I had some in mind, but I was looking up some of them, and some of them there still weren't. The ones that came to mind for me were not on any of the lists I was finding. And I feel like there is a little bit of a disconnect for some of the ones that I was seeing listed. Like, they just felt like very, I don't know. I don't know if this is just the era we're in, but some movies just feel very, very stylized and not like a Barry Jenkins art house film. Like, that's like an intentional, we're making this look. It just feels like the characters have to be so perfect. It doesn't even feel like you're really watching a coming of age story. Like, it's just like this might sound, but it's just like everyone's hair is laid. Like, it's like when I was a teenager and I see teenagers around, like, they're not that perfect, And so I think there's a movie I was going to mention, I guess I can mention it now. It's called Just Another Girl in the IRT. And that's a coming of age story. It was like a little indie film. And it's about this girl who's 17, and she just doesn't want to be another statistic in the projects where she's growing up. And it's like very relatable. And I watched that like as, older. And I was like, yeah, this feels more hard hitting than some of the stuff now. And I don't know if that's just because I'm now older and it doesn't, and what's nostalgic to some people, I just don't really relate to. I don't know, like social media, like there's just certain aspects I'm like, I don't really feel like this is really talking about anything or like touching on anything. And I guess I would say this more so for some of the characters, the ones that have characters of color in them or Black characters, like it just feels very flat. I don't want to be critical of work, but it just feels, I don't know.
I know what you mean, Elizabeth. Yeah,
it's hard
I kind of see it. Like, watching the more recent ones, I was kind of like, because there's also lack of in the newer ones, or like a better way to show like socioeconomic differences and like class differences, because in these films, like, they all live in like giant houses and are like obviously like wealthy, but it's not really, it's just kind of like, oh, it's just like this, and like it's not everybody. And I was gonna say I love Gen Z. I think they're so cool, but they also terrify me a little bit because have you seen those memes where it's like Gen Z at 15 and me at 15? And I'm like, yeah, because like they just look so much older than I did at 15. Like at 15, I think I cut my own bangs real bad and just like didn't know how to dress. Like it just like I don't know how they do it.
Maybe I'm going into like some like existential generational thing, but
Yeah.
so basically to answer the question, I don't know if I would say that they're necessarily getting better in some realms. Like some people are knocking it out of the park, but some are just
They're trying, but like
Yeah, I mean, so when you were talking, Elizabeth, I kind of was thinking like if it's just also a matter of some of the issues that come up with them are just not resonating with us because they're no longer touching on the issues that like we're coming of age for our generation. They're more like they're coming of age as in these times, and obviously we are already in our 20s and 30s. So that could be part of it. I guess the other thing, although I don't think that this should be the direction that all movies go, but sometimes it's nice that they can just make a film that just exists. Like, you know, it will have people of color in it. And yeah, it may not be the greatest or it's not making a point, but at least they get to exist. I mean, I still think it would be nice if there were just like more complicated narratives or that it felt like something that just kind of hit you a bit more. But I wonder if that's also like a small win in its own way. That we kind of just get these movies that just exist. Because, you know, like, I don't know.
And can I add something to that? I think I was more so saying in the realm, and maybe, I'm sorry, I'm jumbled, but I think maybe it's just the idea of like coming of age is just, as you said in the beginning, it's just expanding and it can really be anything. And the traditional maybe mindset of a coming of age story might not be resonating because other films that are not limited to that are doing it maybe a little better. Like, because there's a movie that popped into my head, I cannot remember the name, but it's on Netflix and it's about them fighting vampires in the Bronx, and it's just lovely. The name of it, but it's great, and it's kind of a coming of age, kind of fun. So maybe that's it too. So I'm gonna vampires in Brooklyn, the Bronx.
Vampires versus the Bronx.
Yes.
Oh.
Very lovely.
You guys are saying the umpires or empires?
Vampires.
Vampires. Not the umpires in the Bronx. Strike one.
On that note,
Oh.
yeah, so I mean, you guys can find a lot of these films streaming on different sites, but we also do have a free streaming resource called Canopy. It's free to use with your library card. You can quickly go to it by putting, I think, pgcmls.canopy.com, and you should be able to sign up with your library card. And there are several movies on there that we touched on that are on Canopy. Some that I can think of off the top of my head are Moonlight and Lady Bird, because they're A24 films. I don't know if you guys know of any other ones that are
also
on
the
there.
Florida Project.
The Florida Project, of course.
I also really like mid-90s. Mid-90s is on there, and that's a good one. In 8th grade, those are others that are on Canopy that are also coming of age.
I think we just named all the A24 coming of age films on.
I have an addiction to A24.
I think you can type in coming of age in Canopy and find a bunch of films too.
Yeah.
Really good at they're good at curating the films in there.
All right, so I hope that you guys enjoyed this discussion and that you guys found a movie worth, I don't know, turning on a Friday night and dissecting or just enjoying. But yeah, it was nice talking to everyone. Bye.
Same. Bye.
Bye.